Hey guys, welcome to my new interview series. My name's Adam Pwnophobia Cogswell. You are listening to Interview with Pwn or Interviewers with Pwn. I don't even know the name of my own series. Doesn't matter. But I'm sitting here today with MonteCristo, Christopher Michaels. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to talk with you again, obviously.
Yeah, it's been a spell. For those of you who don't know, Monte and I go way back.
Yeah.
Monte's the reason I started podcasting for League of Legends. So,
No, you were doing it before we met.
that's fair, but I had only like 2 episodes under my belt. You helped propel with ggChronicle. We'll put it that way. But yeah, I wanted to bring Monte on because if you guys have listened to the other shows, I've been bringing video game developers on, people in esports, etc., and kind of talking about their careers. And I thought Monte had such a storied career, and plus he's been a really good friend over the years, that it'd be great to sit down and talk with him about how he got started. I forgot all about your stuff with Warcraft 3 and Freak and all that too.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think I started in esports in like 2004.
Yeah,
so
let's talk about that because I don't know how many people know that it was Warcraft 3 you started with, right?
Yeah, I didn't know esports really existed. And then I was really heavily laddering and got up to some pretty high ranks on the Warcraft 3 ladder. And then I found this site called WC Replays, which is where Freak came from as well in League of Legends. And Kim Fan, who is known as Bunny, who was a esports manager at Blizzard for like 15 years. She left within, I think, about the past year or so, but she's still in esports. She owned the site and was not affiliated with Blizzard at the time. And I realized that there was this whole professional scene. So then I started watching replays and I started casting ESL's WC3L League, oftentimes with Freak. So that's kind of how I got things started. And then I ended up in 2005 managing the Warcraft 3 division of Verge Gaming, which was Matt Marcoux, who is currently the commissioner of Madden League's professional team back in the day. So that's how I kind of got into everything.
Do you remember, I'm sure you do, how did that all go with professional teams in 2005? Because we didn't really see streaming services like Twitch and Owned until, 2010?
Yeah, it was much later. Basically, Warcraft 3 was run off of, so why people are called shoutcasters is because Shoutcast was the plugin for Winamp that we used to do radio style broadcasts because you couldn't watch them live. You had to wait till the replay came out. So if you wanted to follow the matches live, it was basically radio. And that's why casters are called shoutcasters now, is because that Winamp plugin. And then later on, instead of a streaming service, there was a client that you could download called WOG TV. And what that would do is in the custom games tab, like the LAN games tab of Warcraft 3, it would create sort of like a virtual network. And it would, because this is very complicated, because Warcraft 3 replays are all basically XY commands on a time scale, right? So if I click on this XY coordinate, and I hit this button at 1 minute and 1 second and however many milliseconds, it gets recorded. And so what a replay is kind of the game playing itself on a list of directions. Mm-hmm. So there would be somebody observing the game. So the casters would be observing the game, and then there would be a WOG TV streamer who is observing the game. And if you had the client, you could go into your custom games and you could watch it live-ish with a slight delay, but it was basically the game playing itself, according to the commands that the pro players were issuing. So it was like a simulation of that inside your client. It's pretty cool.
That's actually really
so
cool.
That's how people used to watch it.
I played Warcraft 3 about the same time that you were playing, but I was doing all the custom games, so I didn't really get into the professional scene. I do remember a lot of those hack and slash type of things people would put together. Kind of they had the clan bots. You could play with Winamp.
Oh, yeah.
You could do, pull up website URLs. You could get to the forums, all that kind of stuff, right? So it was a lot more, I don't know why tonight's word is like grassroots, but that's just what it's coming from my head. It's like, it was much more hack and slashy back in the day than it is now.
I mean, that was what was fun about it too, so.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I had a lot more fun doing things like that. We used to have fun because we'd have the Warcraft 3 bot in our clan channel, and people would screw with my Winamp player when I'm playing the game. So, I'd get random music. They type a number in and then it plays whatever. But so that was Warcraft 3. Obviously started there, and then I'm assuming through moving through Warcraft 3 and whatever 2009, 2010 hits in League of Legends, right?
Well, after that I did. So I was with the Team Sportscast Network, TSN, which was, there were kind of two there were kind of two different competing casting services. So one was Radio ITG, which was run by DJ Wheat, and the other one was called the Team Sportscast Network. And I worked with a guy named Bridger, and D-Man was on there, but he was doing Battlefield at the time, and I didn't really know him. But I was doing RTS, so I did Company of Heroes with them and Rise of Nations, Rise of Legends, which are probably games that most people didn't play. So I was doing some casting and mostly audio commentary. So what audio commentaries is back in the day with RTS, you download a replay file and then you download an MP3 and then you'd sync them and sort of watch a replay with audio commentary.
Sure.
So Freak did a bunch of those for WC replays as well. So I was doing some other RTS games. And then what happened was my college roommate ended up being at Riot and being one of their first, 50 or 60 employees. And after I graduated college in 2009, I wasn't doing much. So he said, hey, come to LA. I'm working for this company called Riot Games. This is before they released League. And I basically just crashed with him for a week and went into Riot's office every day. And they knew that I knew esports. And I was really the first person that Riot had talked to about esports. So I talked to Brandon Beck and Mark Merrill, the president and CEO, sat down with them for a long time, discussed many of the things about League of Legends that I thought would make a great esport. They asked me if I thought it was going to be good. I said, yes, I think this game is going to be amazing. I was never really a big Dota player, so I played some Dota, but not a lot. And I really just fell in love with League of Legends. And then after that, I was watching GSL at the time in StarCraft, but I wasn't really active in the esports scene. And then I ended up when the tournament started getting bigger, since I had written for WC Replays, I said, well, why don't I make a site to do journalism? And I had, I was going to invest my own money into it because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I always loved esports. So I decided, hey, might as well just put some of my extra money in this, because I was working at a law firm and I had made that decision to have extra money to do things and pursue things. So I did that, and that's where we met through ggChronicle.
Right. It's kind of funny. This is a great trip through memory lane because I had forgotten about it. I'd forgotten the law firm and you start thinking the friends and everybody, right? So for me, excuse me, anybody out there listening, if I take a moment, because it really is a trip through memory lane for me with this all.
Yeah, it was a really good time. I mean, I think for ggChronicle, like I was paying for a lot of the costs, all the costs that went into it, and the ideal was for a bunch of people to volunteer and like raise their status and like be able to do more and more within the esports community. So you were part of that with the Trinity Force podcast, which is great.
We brought in a whole bunch of people. Trinity Force brought in Dominic, helped out because he was helping out Travis Grafford doing he was editing for Travis at the time when he was writing articles. Obscura, we brought him in as well, and then eventually that moved on even further over bringing in why can't I think of his tag? He shoutcasts now for the European division of League. Dracos.
Yep.
He eventually came in. There was other ones. Emily, she came in too.
Emily Rand, who works for ESPN now. Optimus Tom, who works for Riot now. Yeah, there were a bunch of people. So it was just sort of a community of people who were passionate about making content, and so we could get it all on one platform and get everybody's eyes on it. And I think it was successful towards that end.
I think it was too, and that was what's great. And I still think it could happen today. I'm kind of trying to wrap this back around to things people can do or ideas they can do, because I still think you can kind of start that website. You can get those people.
I mean, but what makes me fucking annoyed is that I still think our final idea, like the problem is we didn't have the money to like really, we needed like $50,000 to really develop like a top tier website, right? And that was the problem. But I think if you look at what could have been done, and our final idea was trying to get it into a position where it could be a content aggregator. So what we wanted was the front page to have like basically approved content creators could submit, or it would scrape for the articles, because the problem we were running into on Reddit is that there was a lot of great content that just wasn't getting upvoted because it wasn't easy to consume. So what we wanted to do was create a curated front page of content that was approved and that was deemed high quality. And unfortunately, we could never really get that working. But I still want that to exist. It's annoying that it doesn't exist even now.
Yeah, it was hard to get it to, get it right. And I think we were using the wrong platform at the time because we were trying to build it off of WordPress. And having moved forward with like Trinity Force, for example, our backend is off Django. Or Django, I can never say it, but it's, it was fully customizable and modular, and I had to dump big money in the back end to make mine work, right? And
yes.
Just to get it to the point where I wanted it, and it's not even where I wanted it. I wanted custom communities and all that. You could subscribe to people's RSS feeds, kind of the same idea, but moving it over to a podcast platform. Either way, things worked out in different ways, but I always liked the idea behind ggChronicle, that custom forum, that really heavily moderated forum that wasn't Reddit, where people could discuss esports and just that. And unfortunately, it never took off again, likely because of lack of funding over anything else. Definitely not passion. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all worked really hard on that, but I think I was successful for what it was. It's just super hard to try and make a business, I think, out of esports journalism is just a nightmare. That's why so many people have failed.
Well, it's also hard, right? Because there's a big movement that, don't work for free. And the model kind of was work for free, work for exposure. And I
worked for free in esports for 8 years.
I know, and I did too. I've worked for free basically my entire time, right? But there's such a big movement of don't work for free, don't work for exposure. And to an extent, I agree, but also to an extent, if you love something so much, you kind of have to, right? You have to put your weight behind it. You have to put the time behind it. Money's just not going to be thrown at your face because you think you're good. You have to prove to somebody you're good. You have to somebody has to discover you, and to do that, you have to work for free.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even think I would ever, full-time working in esports was never my goal. I never even thought it would happen. I just did it because I loved it. Mm-hmm. That was it. So
speaking of loving it, we had loved League of Legends so much at that point. Do you remember the first tournament we ever put on, the GG Classic?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, it was great.
And was it GG Classic 1 or 2 that we brought M5 over at the time? Or
the second one, you mean the Type A Assassins?
No, we brought Type A Assassins. We also brought the Russians over.
I mean, we had a bunch of the teams that were in Korea and then in Asia at the time playing remotely,
right?
Because that was when CLG was also in Korea doing the OGN stuff.
That's right. Because that was GG Classic 2. Because I can remember GG Classic 1. We had Dignitas in it. That was when Skara was playing full time, as the mid laner, and Saint Vicious as well was playing, and we had them. And we set up an IRC channels for them, and we had people monitoring the channels, and that's how we got people in, because there was no such thing as Skype sucked. People use Skype, but it wasn't great for putting people together.
Discord would have been great at the time.
God, Discord would have been awesome. But I've never been able to tell this
organizing during using IRC. That's true.
We used IRC. I have to tell a story because I've never told anybody, but I can remember trying, getting everybody there and trying to get all the teams together, and somebody messaging me and be like, Skara just got up. He needs us to postpone for an hour and a half. And I can remember bitching to you for an hour straight about how unprofessional this is. These teams are supposed to be, and there's these 18-year-old kids that were just trying to get together to play for a couple $1,000.
Yeah. It was a time of transition because the seriousness, when we were broadcasting that, I was broadcasting that to 40,000 concurrent viewers on Owned out of my apartment in Brooklyn, which, at the time was enormous, but the professionalism really hadn't caught up to where the esports scene was at that time. Right.
Right.
Because the viewership was huge, especially by the standards then, but everything had just happened so fast in League of Legends, and everything had gotten big so quickly that, it wasn't, I guess, really seen as seriously.
I just don't. Yeah, we get this out there. People are watching it, and they wonder why delays are happening and whatnot. And now it's much more. It's much random, much better. Now that you have organizers and managers and all the people in the backstage doing it. But back in the day, it was, hey, can you go poke him? He's in the other room, right? Messing these people have no idea how to use technology.
Yeah, that was funny, and that's how I was used to it, I guess, because that's how I had always organized tournaments, going back to the very early days of esports. So. It was scrappy, but I was used to just doing it everything ourselves. So you were casting it too, and we were having to cast and do tournament organization at the same time. And considering that, I actually think it went pretty smoothly.
I think it went well. I mean, we were able to do a GG Classic too with more sponsors, right?
Yeah.
But this is, this is about you, not so much about ggChronicle, but this is pertinent because I believe
it's a huge part of what my life. So
the whole GG Classic thing that helped you get your foot in the store with what was it?
MLG.
MLG, thank you. I want to keep on saying MG Arena, MLG, because you casted at MLG for the summer.
Yeah, and that was because they put out a call for league casters who were living in New York. So Optimus Tom and I were both living in the New York area at that point.
Was
so
that Will
it was
Chobra
easy.
Too?
Chobra randomly ended up because he was waiting outside the building for some MLG Dr. Pepper contest. And so he basically intercepted to be like the Dr. Pepper ultimate fan. He was like waiting outside the MLG offices all day. And because he was bilingual, that was Azubu Blaze had just come. They were the first Korean team to compete in North America, and they were at the MLG Summer event in New York. And so he was just standing on the street, and then he saw them coming in and started talking to them in Korean, and they invited him up to help translate for the team because they didn't have a Korean translator on site. And then that's how he got involved with everything too. It's pretty funny.
Wow. I'm interviewing him in a few weeks. I'm going to have to ask him about that because that's right place, right time, right?
I mean, it's a great story, right? Like I think that's really important. And people always ask me, how do I get involved in esports? I'm like, just go to shit, because going to shit and like just showing up is so incredibly important. Because you just need to get that FaceTime in, and people are really friendly for the most part in esports. Everybody started this because they were a fan and they wanted to give back to the community, and they were just so passionate about it. So people are pretty chill in general.
Yeah, I agree. Just go to there. Bring a camera with you. Just go and a microphone, right? And just talk to people.
Yeah.
I've gone to PAX before without PAX or passes and just walked up to developers. Hey, I got a camera. Can I interview you? And they let you do it.
I totally agree.
So I agree with that. So I'm not gonna harp too much on the MLG stuff, but that was like the turning point, wasn't it? Because after that there was OGN put out looking for shoutcasters, right?
Yes. What happened there was that they were OGN, so Torch, he works at Blizzard now, Trevor Houston. He was a former StarCraft professional gamer, and he had started casting StarCraft, and then he moved on to casting League for OGN, but he was in a long-term relationship, which he's still in. And he came back to the States as a result of wanting a new job, not wanting to be apart from his long-term partner. And so I knew him from an interview that I had done at PAX, actually, speaking of PAX, when there was the North American finals for Worlds, and he happened to be there. And so I was one of the people who spoke to OGN about possibly going and casting there, and did some Skype interviews and everything like that. And they decided that they wanted to hire me. So I had 2 weeks to move to Seoul. I had never been there before, but I had grown up watching OGN StarCraft. And I guess my thought process was, this is kind of a dream come true in terms of my life and my passion and watching Korean esports. So I better just fuck it and leave. So I gave my 2 weeks notice at the law firm. It was during Hurricane Sandy. It was crazy. I had to finish a bunch of projects, and then I moved out there.
So how does that all work? I'm sure it's different now if they were to go out and look for a caster, but at the time, were they paying for your relocation? Were they helping you get up set up, or was it kind of like, be here in 2 weeks and we'll talk about it?
I mean, they got me a visa. They did help me locate an apartment, that kind of stuff. So they were helpful. But yeah, it was just like, here's your job offer, show up.
Wow. I've moved thousands of miles across the United States, right? But that's all in America. I just couldn't imagine getting my visa and going thousands of miles like over the sea.
Yeah, but I was young. I was like 26, so it seemed like, fuck it, this is an adventure. How many times am I going to get an opportunity like this? It would be really stupid not to do this.
Right. So what's time like over there? What was again, this is still kind of like new frontier, right? Because it was season 3, 4 of League at that time?
Yeah, it was before LCS started. So it was the end of 2012. So LCS didn't start until spring of 2013. So I had already completed a season of OGN before LCS even began. Yeah, it was great. OGN was by far at the time the best production in the world. LCS was in a converted mechanics garage in Los Angeles, and it was kind of just shitty. One of the funniest things that ever happened was that for some reason, like halfway through the year, they just insisted that Doa and I come out to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And they never told us why. They literally took us, and so Chobra was covering for some of our broadcasts because Riot just said, you must come out here. Now, bear in mind that Riot does not employ us and was not paying us. But we're like, okay, fine. We'll go deal with this bullshit. Let's go talk to Riot. So we go there thinking that eventually someone's going to give us an explanation as to why we are there.
Right.
So we go to their studio, and their studio is just so sad compared to the OGN studio. And there's like, they're showing us how they work. And it's just like, I don't know. It would be like being taken from the NFL to like a college football broadcast. And you're like, shouldn't you be coming to my broadcast and looking at how it's done and has been done for 20 years at a professional television level? But no. So we just kind of ended up there, and we stayed there for a week, and they showed us stuff, and we never, ever actually understood why we had gone there.
So you got there. Was there any itinerary or anything, or was it just kind of like, hey, come down to our small studio in the garage and just hang out?
Yeah. And they were like, can you go to the meetings and see how our casters do things? We're like, okay. And we did.
Do you think they expected you guys to come out with like and say, hey, this is how we do it, and this is how we think
I mean, we
should
talked
do
about that kind of stuff too, but it's just weird because there wasn't an agenda. You know what I mean? It's like you go someplace and you expect, oh, let's talk about how we do things. No, they like wanted us to shadow the LCS casters for reasons that I still don't understand.
Yeah,
so that was a weird time.
That. Like, what reason without like, hey, this is why you're here?
I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to get to know us. I don't know.
Huh. Well, I mean, I guess it worked out. You got to fly to America and be jet lagged for a week. Like, congratulations, right?
Good times for sure. Yeah.
I had a little better experience. I got flown out to Riot, and there was kind of an agenda. I got stuck in a room with Freak. He insulted me. I insulted him. It was good times.
Sounds like most interactions with Freak.
And then I left thinking, man, Freak, you're kind of a jerk. And like, I tell him, I'm like, yeah, he's kind of a jerk. He insulted me for being Plat 1 at the time. Like, come on, dude. I'm a
That's
random
just a
fan.
sense of humor.
But I know, I laughed about it and you know, just kind of walk away from it. But that was what it was. And but yeah, mine had a little more of an agenda than that. So this is where I get a little fuzzy, right? Because I felt like you were in Korea forever, just
5 years,
and going through. Yeah, 5 years. That's a long time. And you went through the whole transition from it actually becoming, you know, being its own OGN thing to then owned by Riot, or the broadcast was owned by
I was
Riot,
not
right?
there for that. I left before that happened.
That's why I said
that's actually one of the reasons I did leave.
Right. So what's it like in the back end? Because I know you casted Worlds, right? And you casted it when it was, you know, fairly large, or it was one of the bigger broadcasts at the time. And what's it like being backstage, being in front of the Worlds, being in front of all those people, you know, actually doing some kind of like broadcast shoutcasting, you know, live like that?
I mean, it was really good. And jokes aside about what I said about Riot's like real super shitty studio, they did level up pretty fast and they did improve. And like the production quality, you know, now is significantly improved from what it was, clearly. But Worlds was, I think 2013 Worlds was really kind of a watershed moment for esports. It was extremely important because it was sort of the arrival of esports in the West, because for the first time ever in the West, like a stadium the size of the Staples Center just sold out. And you have to remember that was less than a year and a half from when we were doing those GG Classic tournaments for 40,000 concurrent people. So this thing was just a fucking rocket. Like, it was crazy.
I think we were still running ggChronicle at that time, right? Was that
We were.
ggChronicle version 2 and doing this? We were doing like the live updating and stuff.
Yeah, and I think like that was just such an impressive experience. So I was really surprised, and I guess that was kind of the moment that esports arrived in North America, more or less. So production was, very good at the time for that event. It was incredibly interesting to be a part of. I enjoyed myself.
Good. So that was the year that you did the SKT T1 Hype Train, right?
Yeah.
That was that whole, the whistle and all that kind of stuff. And, I believe Crepo was part of the shout.
And Double Lift. Yeah.
And Double Lift, right? So when that all comes about, because let me take a step back here. I kind of remember at that time when we're going through the esports is that Riot was trying to be super professional about things, and you guys were having a lot of fun over here at OGN, right? Like just having, there was, and you kind of brought that over to the Riot side of things, and it was kind of not unprecedented, but just like different, because you couldn't make jokes, you couldn't be yourself, and suddenly here you are with your whistle. Was that like pre-planned? Did you have to talk to them to do that, or did it just kind of like, hey, I'm doing it on stream, good luck?
So I did tell them that I was doing it, and they knew that so none of the people on that desk, I was very careful in rehearsals not to do it.
Okay.
Because I told them sort of basically what I was going to do, but not entirely, because I wanted the reactions to be genuine. And I think that whenever I do like one of those bits that I've done many times over the years, I try and like hide what's happening so that no one else knows what I'm doing, so that it becomes, the reactions are real and it feels more fun. So they sort of had an idea of what I was going to do, but not really.
Sure.
And that was sort of like it's hard because the producers also don't know how it's going to go. And for them to trust me to pull something like that off at a world final was, right. Took a level of trust that I appreciate from them. But yeah, I think it wasn't that the LCS wasn't having fun. It's just that I think that those casters were just so new, because you have to remember that I spent 15 years acting.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a theater background and I have an improv background. And so me doing that, it comes very naturally. Whereas those guys were so fresh to being on camera that I just don't think they knew how to do that yet. I think they've learned over the years, but I just think that they didn't have that same expertise.
You make a good
And point. I think the same thing is true of Doa at the time too on the OGN broadcast, because remember, he had been casting StarCraft in Korea for years. So all the Riot casters some of them had broadcast previously, but you had to be in Korea to get the level of practice that at the time, because that was the only place where you were in studio multiple days a week doing these shows. It was the only place on earth. So right. If you weren't there, you could have been shoutcasting. Like Riv was an FPS caster, or Quickshot was casting COD. Like they did have experienced people, but that experience is really, really different, or was really different at the time compared to being in Korea.
Do you think part of it also has to play into personalities? Because I think something that I've noticed a lot is that people, to make a personality kind of like a double lift, right? You kind of have to come out of your shell and not be so much of just a gamer, and learning to
Sure.
harness that, right? Because I'd always said that I want to see the Kale Sonnen of League of Legends. I want that person that just trash talks. I don't care how good or bad they are; they just trash talk, and we we laugh about it. We press the smash the like button. A double lift did that, and broadcasters and whatnot. Do you think there's like a level of like a type of person or personality that's that, or do you think that's something that can be learned by these people and needs to be taught?
I don't know. And the reason why I can't say that is because I started acting when I was 8. So I don't really remember my life before I was on stage. And I don't really know how much of that was the training that I received, because I was in Colorado, where I grew up. I was part of like a private theater company for 10 years, and then I did theater in college. So I don't really remember a time before I was performing. So I don't know who or what I would have been without that. I can say that it was enormously effective in terms of being able to have the skills that lend themselves to casting, and also in particular the really memorable moments, because there are a lot of casters and there are a lot of people who have great analysis, but I think what's different about me is that I have a level of performance, on camera performance, that is unusual, and that's what many producers have told me over the years, is that I differ in that fashion. So I don't know if I would have gotten that as the answer without those experiences. And I don't know whether that's something that other people, it's a learned thing or it's a natural thing.
I just want to, if we are sitting next to you, I'd just be fist bumping you the entire time, because I'm like, yes, he's saying all the things that I've been saying for years. Right?
I just don't know. Like,
right, like just be yourself. Just be stupid, right? Don't be annoying, but just be fun. Make people want to like you.
I think that's the key. Because, well, I mean, a lot of people don't like my on-camera personality because it's abrasive, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the reaction that I sometimes get is like, oh, you're so nice in person. I'm like, yeah, you do realize, like, you don't think that Joffrey in Game of Thrones is actually an evil child, do you? Like, you are capable to a certain degree of telling reality from fiction. Sometimes it seems like people aren't.
You would hope, but yeah.
Also, it's a bunch of kids most of the time watching esports, so they kind of take things at face value. They probably believe WWE is real and shit. I don't know. But my point is that
can we not? Let's not let that shit down. Talk about WWE all you want. That's a whole other story for another time.
I like WWE. It's fine. I enjoy wrestling, but I think that it's obviously an exaggerated version of my personality, and it's played up. But I am a combative person naturally. But the conflict creates interest on the desk. And also there's casting MonteCristo and there's desk MonteCristo. And those are two very different things, because on the desk, I don't have to be neutral. I can be ultra biased, be super argumentative, focus on just one or two things that I want to focus on, as opposed to being a caster where you have to be more neutral, make it not about you. Whereas on the desk, it can be entirely about you.
Right.
But I think one of the things that I really learned is that it didn't matter how many literally thousands of games of League of Legends that I cast and did excellent analysis and basically became a disciple of the game. Because at the end of the day, people were just going to remember me blowing a train whistle or doing other silly shit. Because my point is, at the end of the day, entertainment is king, right?
Right.
Because
that's how gifs are made. That's how memes are made, right? Like, you have to be entertaining. But how many times have I seen you in that stupid mustache? Like, I just want to rip it off your face. I'm going to be honest. That's like the picture I have of you right now.
Yeah, well, that wasn't very long lasting. But yeah, the funny thing about that is, I can be a good analyst, but for most people, they're not concerned with necessarily that level of analysis, because they just simply don't know the game to that point, or like have no comprehension of advanced analysis. So like the analysis just has to be good enough. And then from there, if you can make it fun, I think that's what puts you over the top.
I think within the circle, outside of talking with you, I think within the Trinity Force circle, we always make fun of Quick Shot, because we also said he knew all the lingo of the game. Right? And so that's what made him fun to listen to, because he could throw out every single ultimate name during the play-by-play, and that made it fun to listen to. And the joke was always he didn't know what he was talking about. Now, do I necessarily believe it or not? No, it's just ribbing at somebody, right? But right. That's the type of thing. We're just having fun because he's fun to listen to, and he was kind of the first one that came to my head. But something that I would always tell people in podcasting was, I want you to go out and go listen to, 10 podcasts. Go listen to your radio station and find somebody that you like and try to mimic a trait of theirs, right? Because in my mind, if you find something that you are enjoying of somebody and you try to mimic that trait or make that trait similar to that of your own, you're going to be more entertaining because you're building yourself. I'm not building, Monte isn't building OGN. Monte is building Monte. And so you found what made you, right? So, yeah.
And, it took a lot. Honestly, like a lot of the things that I wanted to do, I had to fight with, especially the Riot producers. The OGN producers didn't give a shit what I did. Because we were just we were a secondary broadcast, and also the only thing they cared about, it's different. It was different because OGN cared about how many people watch the stream because they were a production company, right? They don't view what they do as marketing, which is what Riot views esports as, a marketing arm for a game. OGN is trying to put together the most compelling entertainment product because they don't get money if more people play League of Legends. They get more money if more people watch. Mm-hmm. So as long as I was really popular with the fan base, that's what they cared about. And then they trusted me because I was popular to do things that, like, they trusted my creativity. Whereas with Riot, a lot of the times they didn't know me as well. And also they were wary of me because I would do things that the fans liked, like criticizing the game. And they didn't like that because they were immature little bitches a lot of the time, honestly. To be blunt, yeah. Like, they behaved, and I think you have seen this come out over time in many of the articles and journalism that has been done about Riot. They were basically like a salty little frat house. And I wasn't into that, and I didn't care. So, that I think that was problematic for them because they viewed, because when they are the game and you're commenting on the game and you are on their broadcast, it becomes unpleasant for them.
Right.
I do not think that developers should be producing the games. I don't think it's good for the esports audience. But I can't really affect that.
No, so. Unfortunately. I've always...
I can in the way that I'm working on a team-led project where I feel more valued than developer-led projects. I've just had very negative experiences when working with developer-led projects. Let's put it that way.
No, I get it. I understand. I've always wanted to, or a goal of mine had always been, and now I don't... I'm just gonna say now I'll bite the hand that feeds because they don't feed anymore. Riot kind of they removed the feed bag from my mouth years ago, And I went, and at first, it's like, but then you make your own way and you figure it out.
Yeah.
But at one point, I wanted to create a podcast for Riot, and of course they went and they did it on their own, and I tried to help Andy Belford with his and whatnot. But it always seemed like with the developers or this you could kind of do your own thing and we might greenlight it, but we're never really behind these creations like we say we were. And it seems like that happened with everything that wasn't some higher up's idea. I kind of feel like some higher up said, hey, we're going to make the dive. And everyone's like, that's a great idea. But there's a billion other podcasts out here that are doing the same thing. Right? Same thing with casters or whatever else may be out there.
In my experience, in my opinion, they should have made the dive years before they actually did it. But.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. That should have been around the same time we started everything with they should have been doing articles and podcasts and video series the moment the LCS hit.
Yeah, they were not smart. They were not smart.
And then you have this giant... Now I'm just bitching, but now you have this giant talent pool of people out there between ggChronicle and Trinity Force and, all these other websites, the Rift Herald, and millions of them, right? And all these people you could have dipped into, and it feels like they just kind of were like, yeah, you guys are doing your thing. You're peasants.
Yeah, that was definitely a part of their attitude that I found to be a turnoff, for sure.
So, enough shitting on Riot. Let's talk about...
Is there ever enough of that? I don't know. I've never gotten tired of it personally.
I could sit here and bitch about Riot for the next couple hours because, like I said, they took away everything that I ever did, and it was great. They propped us up just to shoot us off the pedestal, literally. Just,
Good times.
Yeah, good times. Like, thanks, guys. I want to move away from the Riot thing. Like, of course, you decided to leave because of the Riot controversy and whatnot. What led you to Blizzard at the time?
First off, I had a very good relationship and still have a very good relationship with Mike Morheim and Amy Morheim, and they are no longer at Blizzard. So I had worked with Blizzard before, casting Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2. Was casting StarCraft 2 in Korea in addition to League of Legends. Always wanted to do more Blizzard titles. Grew up loving Blizzard. And then Overwatch was announced. And Doe and I started talking to them almost immediately because at this point, Riot's bullshit was just so tiresome.
Yeah.
And so when we started, and what we wanted to do was we had always cast other games. Doe was casting Hearthstone for OGN. I was casting Vainglory. We were both casting StarCraft 2. So it was never we were only casting League. we were always doing other stuff as well.
Sure.
And so we knew that a new Blizzard game, it's an FPS, it'll be big in Korea. So we wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to have a crack at casting Overwatch when it came out. And that was, I think a good opportunity. And we found out that they were building out this entire like global league structure. Sounded extremely ambitious. And so also I had been waiting in Korea because the eventuality was, remember, Korea is still a country of only 50 million people. So when we discuss the timeline, I knew Koreans had been the best and would continue to field strong players, but in the same way that Korean players go play in the MLB in baseball, they don't stay in the KBO, which is the Korean Baseball League. Like Korean players in sports will go to bigger markets. So it was really a game of waiting until the US got big enough in esports in order for it to be a viable option for me to go back. Because as an English commentator, that was always going to be the bigger market for me. And so Overwatch League, Nate Nanzer, the commissioner, Doa and I were one of the first 4 people alongside with Nate Nanzer and Marissa Palumbo, who's a producer for Team 4, the development team, not for the Overwatch League broadcast. Were the first kind of people involved in it. And that was a really compelling opportunity to come back to the States. We were hired as consultants to help build out the creative end of the league, to help build out the spectating and the tools that were needed to watch the game. So, I don't want to just be a caster. I'm trying to develop my career in other ways in addition to continuing to be on camera. Mm-hmm. And so to have that opportunity was like really valuable to me. And also they were throwing so much money at it, like I was going to get paid more money. So there was that. I was excited about the game. And unfortunately, over the last couple of years, Nate Nanzer was very publicly left to join Epic halfway through 2019. And at that point, I kind of realized like, uh-oh. Yeah, right. I was not pleased with the creative direction of the league, but I was no longer a consultant in 2019. That was 2017 and 2018. I expressed this to many people. They decided to ignore me. And I think if you watch Overwatch League today, you will see that there's not a lot of star building, not a lot of feature content, not a lot of shoulder content, just kind of like, is the broadcast running? Yes. And at that point, after we had done such awesome shit, like in season 1 of Overwatch League, we did this show called WatchPoint, which was a live to tape show where we did skits, and it was excellent content, excellent. And I learned a lot from doing that, but basically everything that was cool about Overwatch League, I just watched slowly get stripped away.
Right.
And there was no reason to really continue if that's what the direction that they wanted to go with the broadcast, because I had no interest in just casting and not doing anything else. So
do you feel, this was about the same time that he decided to kill Heroes of the Storm, right?
It was a year later that I left. I'm sad that they did that. But also remember that, without Mike Morhaime was no longer the CEO of Blizzard. And Mike and Nate were the people that and Amy Morhaime, Mike's wife, who ran a bunch of the esports programs. Like, these were the people that I trusted. And when all of them were gone, it was not the place that I wanted to be anymore.
Sure. I can understand that. So did you work ever alongside any of the heroes, team or casters, or were you privy to any of that information? Because I've always been a little curious about that whole, what the hell happened with Heroes? I
mean, I do know what happened with Heroes, but I can't really discuss it.
Okay. That's fine. I understand.
I mean, what I will say is I strongly disagree with what happened. I think that after you announce the next year of Heroes, you just have to bite the bullet and just pay for the cost, and then let people know that it's the last year you're doing this, not string everyone along and then suddenly make a decision.
If you can't say anything, it's fine. I totally get it.
All I'll say is, like, you've seen a lot of people leave Blizzard.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough. I understand.
I think that says what it needs to say.
Okay, so explain to me Overwatch here, because I tried. Okay, I tried to play Overwatch, but
sure.
And coming from Lee, you know, dissecting patch notes and understanding all of that, and really, I've tried to take that passion to other games, but it's never worked right. And I don't understand Overwatch. I don't understand why this is a great spectator sport. You know, explain to me what you saw in it, other than the fact that it was getting you to America.
I enjoyed playing it. I think most people really enjoyed playing Overwatch when it first came out. It was a really fun arcade shooter. And I think what was compelling about it was, at the time, it was a good hybrid of MOBA and FPS. But over time, the MOBA elements started taking over the more new heroes they introduced, to the degree that we went to GOATs, which was the composition that was basically just like 2 mirror comps who were 3 tanks and 3 supports. So it was all about abilities. And that was fascinating, I think, analytically, because it was a very deep strategy, but it was all you ever saw. And also, it basically became the world's hardest to watch MOBA. And like, that's not what I signed up for. I signed up for an FPS. And I think a lot of people signed up for an FPS, and that over time was not appreciated by a lot of the fans.
I understand that. I tried to watch it a couple times, and of course I did play it. Being much different playing it than it is, playing it solo than watching it professionally, because I understand that how deep the strategy goes with what you said. But to me, it just kind of felt like whoever got their ultimates or whatever they were called first kind of won that round or match, right? Like, there was this good back and forth, but you had to understand that to really appreciate the broadcast. Am I wrong?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also, the problem is there's very little time to do analysis in the game because it's so fast. So if you like, you know, it's hard. It was hard for me because I had to just pick one thing and do analysis of it, because there's very little downtime. Like, it's definitely more of a good game for play-by-play casters rather than color casters. So I think that was tricky. And there was never, it was just, I think that it still has obvious, like, it's very difficult. It's the most difficult game I've ever had to cast. It's extremely difficult to observe and watch. It's not, the ease of watching is not great, clearly. But I didn't know if those issues would be overcome, or how everything would change as the developers developed the game. And I just don't think it went in the best direction it could have.
Gotcha. So what it sounds like, if there was less MOBA elements, more FPS elements, it would have been easy. And the people of
maybe,
liked it maybe would have been a little larger than it was.
Yeah. I mean, it was big.
Sure.
Like, I mean, objectively, if you look at the viewership for Overwatch League in its first 2 years of competition, it was, in fact, like the most viewed channel on Twitch last year. So it wasn't small by any stretch of the imagination. But it wasn't like the same world beater, enormous esports explosion that League of Legends was when it came out. It didn't radically change the market. And because we had so many resources available to us, we really had, it was an impressive level of production, and it was good to be a part of, I think. But it was also just time to go at this stage of things.
I always did love the production. Blizzard does put on a good show. Between I've watched a lot of Hearthstone streams. Oh yeah, and whatnot. And I loved watching like Brian Kibler, talk.
Oh yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah,
he's great.
Brian's great. I love. I would love to talk to him. So.
Yeah,
I might have to hit you up later and ask him to.
Yeah, come to LA. We'll have dinner.
I'm not too far away. I'm actually probably gonna come visit LA, so I will hit you up and take that.
That's very doable.
But yeah, so I really did always appreciate Blizzard for what they did. Again, I loved Hearthstone. I tried to watch Overwatch, and Heroes of the Storm. I got into that a little bit because I had a friend playing it. And I'm really sad to see the way that Blizzard had gone. Like you, I grew up playing Blizzard games, Warcraft and Diablo and all that. And we've come a long shot from Blizzard of 2005.
I think as a Blizzard fan, many Blizzard fans have had this experience where it's just like, shit. I guess I just have to come to terms with the fact that this isn't what I grew up with, and that's how Blizzard's just going to be now. It's not pleasant, I think, because so many of us have like such amazing childhood memories of Blizzard, but you can't change reality, I guess. And I think the company is no longer what it was because a lot of the leadership has left, and it's a really different place now.
Right. So let's talk about Monte nowadays, right? Monte 2020. You've moved on to do the freelancing stuff.
Well, I'm not freelancing. I work full time at Cloud9.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You did move over to Cloud9. I apologize. You moved on to do your, how about this? You moved on to do your own thing, what you wanted to do, right? And now you're creating content. I did see that out there. You have your own video podcast.
Yeah. Back to doing Summoning Insight. So that's fun. But that's just one part of what I'm doing these days. I intend to build out a broader content platform for Cloud9. We're building a studio in Santa Monica right now. So we'll be using that for a bunch of content and fun stuff. I'm working on FlashPoint, which is this Counter-Strike league, and I'm doing a lot of the producing and helping with the creative direction with Thorin on that one. So it's kind of what I wanted to do it's not kind of. It is what I wanted to do at Overwatch League, which is have a lot of creative control within the space. And so that has been honestly really nice. And because it's a league owned by the owners, and I just don't think I can work with developers anymore. Like, they're great at making games, but please just fuck off when it comes to like knowing how to broadcast or knowing esports fan bases. They don't know what they're doing. Like, just stick to doing what you know how to do, please. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of annoying. But now the owners collectively own FlashPoint, this league. They trust not only me and Thorin, but many other people as well, who have been professional Counter-Strike commentators for many years, to sort of have the best read on the audience and kind of have a lot of control over the creative direction. So that's what I'm working on a lot right now, because we are going to be launching that broadcast, and I'll probably be desk hosting or doing shows for that, not casting. But I kind of just want to do shows these days because I'm sick of doing things under other people's creative vision, and I don't really have to do that at this point in my career. Like, I just want to make shit my way, and Cloud9 wants me to do that, and I want to do that, so it's working.
That's phenomenal. I love this whole story from a guy just playing in his apartment in Brooklyn, right, up to now, living in LA and doing what
that's the worst part. Living in LA is the worst part for sure.
Yeah. Can you tell that to my wife? I've talked to 2 or 3 people now that have all said the same thing. I fucking
it's
live
horrible
in California, and my wife wants to move out to California. And I'm like,
no,
you live in Colorado. Like,
yes, I want to move to Colorado. Tell her that.
Yeah, that's what I tell her. I'm like, you live here. We can afford to live here. Just stay. Right?
I think Colorado's great.
Oh yeah.
I would prefer to live there, but yeah, I don't. Sometimes you don't have total control over that situation, which I certainly don't, because unfortunately, esports there's just too much to do in esports here to leave. Mm-hmm. So it's okay, but definitely would prefer to do other things or live other places.
Ends meet, right? And
yeah,
that's really what
that is to be fair, one of the problems of living in California, but it's just ridiculously expensive.
Keep going. I'm gonna clip this. I'm gonna put it on my wife's phone. Like, listen, just listen to him. It's too fucking expensive. Like, you think it's expensive here? Just let's go west.
Yeah, just double it, and then you'll get an idea.
Right. Exactly. And so
yeah, it's fine though. But yeah, I think that's the news. Having the studio and having these opportunities available is really important. And Cloud9 has been really supportive, and they treat the casters working on the FlashPoint project better than the casters get treated by anyone else, I think, in terms of really listening to us and taking our feedback and hopefully implementing our ideas. There's no reason that shouldn't happen, considering we're starting the broadcast in a few weeks. But I think FlashPoint is going to be really interesting because all of us have said we want to make an esports broadcast for adults. Like, we're tired of Disney bullshit. Like, we're going to make a Counter-Strike league, and it's going to be like UFC. It's going to be that level of, we want trash talking, we want banter, we want to encourage these things within the project. And we think Counter-Strike's a great space to do that in. And I've always been a huge Counter-Strike fan. I just didn't have a way to work in the game because I lived in Korea where they don't play Counter-Strike. Right. And then to get back to the States, I was working on Overwatch League, and I never really had an in. But I'm very good friends with many of the casters, and people like Bardolph and DDK and Anders and Moses and have all been contributing a lot in terms of the creative ideas around this product. And so I think it's going to be really interesting for the fans. It's certainly going to be weird, and it's certainly going to be unique. So I would encourage people to watch it, just generally, even if you don't know Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is, by the way, the easiest game esport to watch and requires no knowledge, because if you know what real world AK-47s and pistols are, then you already know enough, because you'll get hyped by a dude with a pistol killing a guy with a sniper rifle because you have real world knowledge. So it's super easy to follow. And the pacing is perfect.
I agree with that. I know nothing about Counter-Strike. I had to be taught kind of how to play the game, and I'm still super noob at it, but it's fun to watch. Like,
and that's why everyone watches it. Like, I have this theory that I think is true, which is that if you're a fan of any other esport, you also watch Counter-Strike, because it's so easy to understand. Like, and the majors get such huge viewership for a game that, frankly, doesn't have that many players. Like, if you compare Counter-Strike player base with League player base, and yet you will see 1 million concurrent viewers watching a CS major final on Twitch. So everyone watches it. It's the esport that everybody watches.
I just appreciate the pros for what they are, because that there's something I could literally never ever be. Right? Like, I will never have the Twitch reflexes of these guys.
Oh,
and I love it.
It's disgusting. Yeah, it's great.
And so it's been fun. I've been trying to find new esports to get into. Recently just got into Smash, right? Been watching a lot of Smash.
That's a good one.
And I love the fighting game community. I was a big Street Fighter 4 player for a long time, so it's been fun to transition over that. Plus, for anybody that's out there, I've been trying to get... You'll appreciate this if you didn't see my tweets a while ago. My son has been playing Smash, and he thinks he's God's gift to Smash. And I tried to tell him, I said, you need to watch videos. And his reply was, well, if I watch videos, then people will know what I'm doing. So why would I want them to know what I'm doing? Because they've watched the same videos as me. So I said, challenge accepted, kid. And now I'm kicking his ass in Smash.
Yes, I think that that only works once you get to a certain level of skill. But I do like the thought process.
Yeah, I'm like, I appreciate it for what it is, but I like I said, I'm like 50% on him right now. We're going 1-on-1, and eventually I just want to make it so he never wins, so I can show him a video and say, just watch this, dude. You need to stop being a scrub.
I like how you're teaching him to be pro at games. That's great.
Dude,
I like it.
What else am I going to do? How else are we going to connect? I got video games. I've been doing this shit for 11 years. Let's go. So anyway, before this all ends and whatnot, where can people find you at? I mean, obviously, if they're listening, they know where to find you at, but shout it out.
Yeah, I'm doing some interesting streaming projects recently too. So I'm kind of doing character streams, but there's going to be a lot of characters, so I would just kind of keep an eye on that. It's taken longer to spin up because of my other obligations, but I think in the next couple of weeks, and also after I'm done with FlashPoint later this year, it should get super weird. Awesome. So I'm enjoying that, and we'll kind of see where that process goes. So twitch.tv/MonteCristo, and then FlashPoint, obviously, if you're going to watch some Counter-Strike, would encourage you to watch that at MonteCristo on Twitter. That's basically it.
Okay, so I had one other thing that you reminded me of.
Sure.
You talked about adult esports, right? And apparently, and I found this out, I know the fighting game community is kind of like adult esports. It's a little dumbed down, but it's more adult esports. But apparently, like the sports games, like FIFA and all the 2K stuff, it's like super adult oriented. Like, we're having fights and people, screaming at each other across the thing. Is Cloud9 looking into doing that? Or are you looking into trying to move in that direction?
Well, it's not Cloud9. Like, Cloud9 is one of 10 member teams that is part of the FlashPoint ownership group.
Sure.
What we're not trying to get people into fights, but what we are trying to do is have more adult language, have more adult themes, have more adult humor. It's like the UFC is not children appropriate.
No.
That's what we want to do.
Okay. Awesome.
So I think it's going to be an interesting process to see what becomes of everything. But the reason behind this is, first off, it's what we want to do selfishly as people, because we're old enough to want to kind of be unshackled and have that kind of broadcast. But another part of it is every year, the group of adults, like you and I are on the older end, the group of adults gets larger. So the audience for this content just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And that will just continue to be true, because I think most people who are esports fans now, who are in their late 20s or early 30s, I don't plan to stop being an esports fan in my 50s. It's just part of my life. Just like being a sports fan, an NFL fan is part of my life. And it's something I enjoy. So as that group, as that cohort of people, like eventually adults are going to be the majority of the esports watching audience. And they already are, I think, technically, if you count 18-year-olds. But I'm talking like people of 25 plus, let's say. And that's the kind of market that we want to target now, because it just keeps getting bigger every single year. So let's look at that market, let's target that and see what we can do to build a fan base there, because no one else is doing that. Everyone else is saying, we want high school kids and college kids. No.
Yeah.
I want working professionals who want to have a more unique entertainment experience that is more edgy, more banter filled. So yes, we're trying to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I think you will like it. I think knowing you, I think you will like it.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for me. Having a 13-year-old at home who watches a lot of the garbage that is out there that panders toward those, age kids. I can't get into it. Like, I got to monitor what the dude's watching. I'm like, I don't know how you as a 26-year-old can pander to 13-year-olds. Why would you not want to talk to people your age? Right. So I love this project, and I'm going to keep my eyes open for it, and I hope others do as well. But I think that's where we're going to end, because you've pretty much told your story here, and I hope other people can learn from it. And I've learned a lot too. It's been a great trip down memory lane.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man.
But guys, that's it. You guys can check out more interviews with Pwn over at trinityforcenetwork.com. Of course, find MonteCristo at MonteCristo on Twitter, and go check out FlashPoint, all other things, guys. We'll be around with another interview next week. See ya. Thanks for listening to my new interview series brought to you by the Trinity Force Network. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/TForce Network. If you have a question or a comment, you can drop me a line at adamc@trinityforcepodcast.com. For everything else, please check me out on trinityforcenetwork.com or subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. Until next time, thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoy all the shows that the Trinity Force Network has to offer.